The shutdown order sat folded in Dana Marsh's coat pocket, and she meant to hand it over the second she walked through the door. The relay station was smaller than she'd pictured. A squat concrete box on the bluff above the harbor, one window glowing amber against the fog. Inside, a man in a faded Coast Guard auxiliary jacket sat hunched over a console of dials that looked older than she was. A girl, maybe 10, sat cross-legged on the floor beside him, a math workbook open on her knees, lit only by the green glow of the VU meters. "Good evening. Cutter's Reach," the man said into the microphone, his voice low and even. "This is Walt, coming to you from the bluff. Seas are calm tonight. If you're out on the water, we've got you. If you're home, good night, and we'll see you tomorrow." He clicked the switch off. Static hissed once, then settled. "Mr. Pruitt," Dana said. "I'm from the county supervisor's office." He turned, and for the first time she saw how tired his eyes were. Not unkind, just worn smooth, like a stone handled too many years. "Figured someone would come eventually." He said, "Coffee's old, but it's hot." "This station's been operating without a budget line for 3 years," Dana said, keeping her voice flat, the way she'd practiced in the car. "Supervisor Holloway's review found it's costing the county nothing, because you're not on the books at all, which means it's also not insured, not licensed under the new emergency frequency plan, and as of next month, it's getting shut down." The girl looked up from her workbook. She didn't say anything. She just looked at Dana the way kids look at weather they don't like. "That's fair," Walt said, and the calm in his voice needled at Dana more than anger would have. "Can I ask, did anyone check who's listening?" "That's not really. 60-some boats work this stretch of coast," Walt said. "Half of them don't have a working radio that reaches the Coast Guard's main tower from inside the channel. The bluff blocks it. I relay. I've relayed every night for 11 years, free of charge because nobody asked me to stop." "I understand that's meaningful to you," Dana said, and heard how it sounded the moment it left her mouth. The kind of sentence you said to someone whose hobby was about to be taken away. But the county can't keep an unlicensed transmitter running based on sentiment. Walt didn't argue. He just nodded slowly, like a man accepting a forecast he didn't like but had seen coming for years. "Renee," he said to the girl, "why don't you show our guest where the old logs are kept? The county'll want those back too, I imagine." Renee set down her workbook without a word and led Dana down a narrow hallway lined with steel shelving, every shelf stacked with cardboard boxes gone soft at the corners. The air smelled like dust and machine oil. "These go back to the 80s, Renee said, tapping a box. "Before my dad even worked here. The guy before him kept everything." Dana crouched and pulled the lid off the nearest box. Logbooks, weather charts, a tangle of cable. Underneath it all, wedged sideways, sat a reel-to-reel tape in a cracked plastic case. No label except a strip of yellowed tape with handwriting on it. A string of letters and numbers, and a date, March 1987. "What's that?" Renee asked, peering over. "I don't know," Dana said. "Looks like a call sign." She turned it over. Someone had written underneath, in smaller letters, almost an afterthought. "Keep, do not erase." "There's an old reel player in the equipment room," Renee said. "Dad never throws anything out. Says you never know when something's going to matter again." Dana should have left it in the box. She knew that even as she carried it down the hall, but something about "do not erase," written so carefully in a building about to be stripped down to its wiring, pulled at her. The equipment room was colder than the booth, full of dead transmitters and coils of cable hung on nails like Christmas lights nobody had taken down. Dana's breath fogged in the air. Along one wall, shelves held spare tubes and hand-labeled spools, each one dated in the same careful block print. Decades of someone's handwriting, never changing. The reel player sat under a sheet near the back, and when Renee pulled the sheet away, Dana expected to find it rusted shut. Instead, the chrome gleamed, faintly oiled, like it had been wiped down recently. "Dad keeps everything running," Renee said, almost apologetic. "Even stuff nobody uses. He says a machine that still works is still useful, even if nobody remembers what it's for." She threaded the tape with the easy confidence of a kid who'd grown up around machines. He's feeding the leader through the heads, snapping the reel onto the spindle, the whole motion, so practiced it. Looked like muscle memory passed down rather than learned. Then she flipped the switch. For a moment there was only hiss. Then a voice, younger, rougher at the edges, but unmistakably the same voice that had said, "Good night, Cutter's Reach. 20 minutes ago. Trawler Maribel, Trawler Maribel." This is Cutter's Reach Relay. Do you copy? A burst of static, a voice shouting over engine noise, half swallowed by the storm. Something about the bilge, about losing the light. Copy, Maribel. I have your position relayed to Coast Guard sector. They're 11 minutes out. Repeat, 11 minutes. I need you to hold your heading at 190. Hold it steady. Don't fight the swell. Ride it. I'll stay with you. I'm not going anywhere. The recording ran nearly 4 minutes. Dana stood frozen, listening to a 26-year-old Walt Perrette talk, a sinking boat through black water in a voice that never once rose, never once cracked, calm laid over fear like a hand on a shoulder. Near the end, another voice broke in, ragged with relief. We see the cutter's light. We see it. Cutter's reach. Thank you. Thank you. We see it. And then Walt's voice again, quieter. Copy that, Maribel. Good. Go on home now. The tape ran out in a soft thump and spun loose. That's the Maribel, Rini said slowly. Dad has a photo of that boat in the hallway. I always thought it was just some old fishing boat. Dana picked up the tape case again. Keep. Do not erase. Someone had known exactly what this was and had hidden it in a box for nearly 40 years. Does your dad know this is here? Rini shook her head. He never talks about before. Before me, I mean. Before Mom. She looked at the real player, then at Dana. He's not going to make a big deal out of this. That's just how he is. Dana looked down the hall toward the booth, where she could hear Walt's voice again, soft, talking to someone on the line. Probably one of the 60 boats. Probably about nothing important. A man who had spent 11 years giving away, for free, the exact thing he'd once done for a living, and had never once mentioned it. She put the tape in her bag. Supervisor Holloway's office overlooked the county lot, and he did not look up from his desk when Dana came in. Tell me you got the inventory done, he said. I've got the press release on the relocation drafted. Consolidating emergency services. Modernizing the county's communications infrastructure. Sounds better than... We shut down a guy's hobby station. I need you to listen to something first, Dana said, and set a small speaker on his desk. Holloway was a man who interrupted things. Dana had seen him cut off department heads mid-sentence in budget meetings. Seen him wave away a fire captain's concerns with a glance at his watch. He opened his mouth twice while the tape played, and both times, something in the recording stopped him. By the time the Maribel's crew came through, saying they saw the light, he was leaning forward, elbows on the desk, very still. When it ended, he didn't speak for a long moment. The Maribel went down in 87, he said finally, slower than Dana had ever heard him talk. I know that wreck. My uncle crewed boats out of this harbor his whole life. He used to tell that story. 6 men pulled off a sinking trawler in a storm because the Coast Guard cutter found them in time. He always said it was a miracle the cutter found them at all in that fog. He looked at the speaker like it might play again on its own. He never said anything about a relay. Because there's no record of one, Dana said. I checked. The official rescue log credits Coast Guard sector entirely. No mention of a shore relay. No mention of an operator. Just position was acquired. She set a printed sheet on his desk. The call sign from the tape, cross-referenced against personal records she'd pulled that morning. That call sign belonged to Walt Pruitt, Coast Guard Auxiliary, civilian radio operator, station decommissioned in 1989, budget cuts, same as now. He was 26. He talked that boat home for 11 minutes, and then somebody filed the paperwork without his name on it, and the station got shut down 2 years later, and she paused. He just kept doing it, unofficially, for 37 years, free. Holloway sat back. For the first time since Dana had started working for him, he looked like a man doing math he didn't want to do. I called this place a waste of the budget, he said quietly. In the planning meeting, I think I said it was. Sentiment with a power bill. You did, Dana said. She hadn't meant it as an accusation. It came out as one anyway. Holloway picked up the tape case, turned it over, read the handwriting on the label. Keep, do not erase. He set it down very carefully, like it might still be live. 6 weeks, he said. Get me 6 weeks. I want to do this right. The dedication was held on the bluff, in the gravel lot beside the relay station, on a clear evening with the harbor spread out gold and quiet below. Dana had expected a small crowd. Instead, the lot was full, boat crews in their working jackets, an old man in a Coast Guard auxiliary cap leaning on a cane, families Dana didn't recognize, all of them facing a small stage that hadn't existed 6 weeks ago. Walt stood near the back, looking like a man who'd been talked into something against his better judgment. With Reenie's hand tucked firmly in his, Holloway took the small podium without his usual briskness. He held up the framed photo that had hung in Walt's hallway for 40 years. The
Maribel.
Battered but afloat, 6 men on her deck. Most of you know this boat, Holloway said. Most of you know the story, that the cutter found her in the fog, against the odds, and brought 6 men home. What most of you don't know, what I didn't know until 6 weeks ago, is that the cutter found her because a 26-year-old radio operator, working alone in a relay station that the county was about to shut down even then, stayed on the line for 11 minutes and refused to let go. He nodded toward the booth's old window, where the reel player sat now in a glass case, the tape inside it, label facing out. That operator's name was never entered in the record. I won't pretend to know why. Paperwork, budgets, somebody's oversight 37 years ago. What I do know is that he never once mentioned it. Not when his own station got cut. Not when he kept running it anyway, for free, for 11 more years, so that boats on this water would always have someone listening. I stood in a meeting 6 weeks ago and called this station a waste. I was wrong, and I'd like to say so in front of everyone he's looked out for. He held up a new sign, painted clean and simple. Pruitt Relay Station, county funded, 1987 present. Effective today, this station is fully funded, fully staffed, and fully his, for as long as he wants it. The applause came up off the bluff like wind off the water, and Walt stood very still through all of it, his jaw working once, his hand tightening slightly around his daughter's. It was Reenie who moved first. She let go of his hand, walked up onto the little stage, and pulled the booth's second microphone, the one she'd been begging him for years to let her use, out from behind the podium, where someone had set it up without either of them noticing. "Can I say goodnight tonight?" she asked him. "With you?" Walt looked at his daughter, and then out at the harbor, and then, for the first time since Dana had met him, he smiled like a man who'd been carrying something heavy for a very long time and had just set it down. "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, you can." That evening, for the first time in 37 years, 2 voices went out over the water instead of one. Dana stood at the back of the crowd and listened. To the calm in Walt's voice, to the bright, careful seriousness in Reenie's, as she read the weather report he'd written out for her in block letters, and thought about a label on an old tape, 4 words written by someone who'd known even then, that some things are worth keeping whether or not anyone ever sees them. Down in the harbor, lights came on along the docks, one by one, as the boats came in for the night, every one of them, for the first time, with somewhere safe to call home.